Thom Hartmann here with you. WNYC reporting that New Jersey Transit's capital budget, the money that funds the train, that the runaway train this morning, and there are some reports that the engineer was slumped over the controls. Perhaps he had a heart attack or a stroke or something like that, seizure. I mean, you know, who knows? But this the entire train, came roaring into the Hoboken station, apparently without substantially slowing, and then boom. And one person definitely dead. Initial reports 3. Now they're reporting 1. This will probably change over time. Over 100 people injured. Serious injuries. This is serious stuff. But to the issue. And I wanted to talk about libertarianism. Gary Johnson yesterday and Chris Matthews. It was fascinating. But, you know, the libertarian approach to this whole thing, and by and large the Republican, because there's not that, you know, huge difference between the Republicans and the libertarians, at least those Republicans who are supported by the Tea Party and Americans for Prosperity and the other, you know, right-wing groups that are funded by the Koch brothers and other right-wing billionaires who many of whom self-identify as libertarians. They are just generally opposed to raising money through taxes and you know, public transportation. Margaret Thatcher said, you know, there's no such thing as society. There's only a collection of individuals. Why should we have public transportation? Well, somebody basically asked that of Chris Christie. This is from WNYC.org. And here's the piece. This is not the case on the other side of the Hudson. They're talking about, you know, New York's investment into their infrastructure and how they're improving and building their infrastructure. That's not the case on the other side of the Hudson. That would be New Jersey, Chris Christie land, where tax cuts rather than tax increases are referred to as examples of fairness and equity. New Jersey's gas tax, which indirectly funds New Jersey Transit's capital budget via the nearly insolvent Transportation Trust Fund, is the second lowest in the nation. It hasn't been raised since Governor Thomas Keene was in office. A bipartisan group of legislators this year has proposed to change that, but Governor Christie is gearing up for a throwdown. Christie's told a group of Morris County business leaders earlier this month they're advocating a 23% increase. More than doubling of the gas tax. It's time to fight the fight, everybody. Now I'm up for it. I'm ready. John Whitten, a vice president at the New Jersey Policy Perspective think tank, said that when it comes to legislators and the governor, quote, everything is very centered on driving and car culture. Lawmakers all drive to Trenton. They all drive to their district offices and their district meetings. Earlier this month, a reporter asked the governor his opinion about a proposal to add a stop in front of the Trenton State House to New Jersey Transit's River Line in the central part of the state. I'm a skeptic, Christie said, about the chances of using the station. Use Uber. Right. That's just the perfect solution, right? I mean, Uber's a really useful thing, and I use it a lot, frankly. But, you know, I took the train to work this morning. Actually, this morning I didn't. I had a doctor's appointment, so I took Uber to my doctor's appointment. But yesterday morning, and pretty much every morning, I take the train to work. And the train is fairly well maintained here in Washington, D.C., and we got a new guy running the thing, and he's like really, really fixing it. But libertarians, you know, this is not so much. Not so much. And, you know, whether it's infrastructure or whether it's, you know, whatever it may be. I mean, we need free market solutions rather than government solutions. Right now, government is us. It's we the people. We should be able to do things for ourselves. In the context of climate change, this is clip number 3, Danielle. This is Gary Johnson yesterday when he was talking to Chris Matthews about how do we deal, you know, we collectively as a society, we as a country, how do we deal with the problems that affect all of us, like climate change? Shouldn't we be proactive? Shouldn't we be doing something? Yeah, here's what Gary Johnson has to say.
Do you think climate change is real? Because one of the candidates challenging you guys, Hillary Clinton, believes it's very real. The other says it's a hoax cooked up in China.
No, I think it's real. I think that it's real, and that we as human beings are demanding less carbon emission, and that's a good thing, and we're getting it. We're 16% of the world's carbon load, so let's not...
Okay, you're a libertarian. How does a libertarian avoid overregulation? Because if we do think fossil fuel use is dangerous to the environment, something has got to stop that use. How do we deal with the libertarian environment?
Well, in this case, the free market has dealt with coal. The free market has,
really?
Has bankrupted marginalized coal. 36% of the load remains coal, but if you are an electrical, if you supply the electrical grid, which is currently 36% coal, you're not going to replace it with coal because natural gas is still lower in price. So free market, natural, everything is being built right now.
You wouldn't have federal controls on emissions.
No, I think the federal government has a role to protect us against harm. I put pollution in that category. So federal government setting standards, setting scientific standards regarding
emissions.
Harm, yeah.
Okay, and that was a word salad. I mean, it was just a word salad. It makes no sense. He says, this is clip number 4, there should be no limits on money in politics. It's, transparency is the solution to everything. Right. We know that this message that, is being brought to us by, billionaire X. But how do we know if it's true? Anyhow, here's Gary Johnson.
My name is Stephanie. I'm a student at the University of New Hampshire as well. Money in politics has been a huge issue throughout this election. I was wondering how your campaign is funded and how that affects your ideals.
Well, interestingly, right now, apparently Hillary is spending more money than we have trying to discredit us at the moment. So we don't have a whole lot of money. But in the context of money, I think that there should be unlimited campaign contribution, but that there should be 100% transparency, something that doesn't exist today. Something that is misunderstood is when you limit campaign contribution, basically that's incumbency protection. Nothing changes if you limit campaign contribution. It goes to those people that have a name and that things stay very status quo. I've always been also supportive of candidates wearing NASCAR jackets with patches commensurate with the size of donation.
How do you enforce that? How do you say Koch brothers on your uniform?
Well,
how do you make somebody wear the Koch brothers?
That there would be 100% transparency, so that you'd be able, as a fact checker, you'd be able to make sure that the Koch brothers did have that.
Do you think that's a libertarian idea, to make people wear costuming to show where their money came from?
Very libertarian.
Right, more word salad. This is pretty pathetic. It's extremely pathetic. Okay, I want to get back to the train here. This train did not have positive train control. Positive train control is a 20th century system. I mean, it's been around for a couple of decades. It's a system that if you lose control of the train, the system takes over control of the train, right? It stops the train. And we didn't have positive train control with the last derailment. We don't have it with this one. The commuter train, this from NBC News, commuter train that crashed in New Jersey's Transit's Hoboken terminal during the Thursday morning rush was not equipped with positive train control. The PTC technology, and what's more, not a single New Jersey Transit employee has been trained in how to use the PTC technology. They have a deadline of 2018 for putting the technology in place. PTC's positive train control technology could also have prevented 145 rail accidents since 1969. They killed 288 people and injured 6,574. That's 2 9/11s that this technology would have stopped. And then it goes on to say the nation's railroads were supposed to have PTC installed on their lines by December 15th, 2015. That was just before last Christmas. But they got a 3-year extension after telling the House Transportation Committee that they could not finish the work by the deadline and complaining about being saddled with an unfunded mandate. So the legislators say, yes, you've got to do this. No, we won't pay for it. And, by basically extending this, John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, says, this will keep the pressure on freight and passenger railroads to ensure safety benefits are realized as soon as possible. Right. Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, not happy with the extension. He says this 5-year extension of life-saving technology is way too long with way too little guarantee that PTC implementation will get done. I will work for a reasonable measure that provides adequate time but holds railroads accountable through year-by-year review of progress toward fully implemented PTC. And, you know, in a way, this is the perfect example of the failure of libertarianism and of the whole kind of free market ideology. Because the argument the libertarians make, and you can read this in their platform, you can read this in, you know, I mean, this is not like, you know, some brilliant insight that I have into it. They're pretty upfront about it. Is that the way that the marketplace works is principally by shame and by courts. So if a company is selling, let's say, salmonella infected hot dogs, after a couple of people have died, then everybody will realize that company is, you know, selling awful hot dogs, don't buy them. And I mean, this is the libertarian worldview, right? The company, and so therefore the marketplace will shift away from there and to someplace else. And there's some truth to that. The problem is it requires somebody to die first. And, you know, the bigger problem, that company can simply reincorporate or just DBA, you know, just come out with a new brand, just do business under a different name. So under this, you know, this libertarian world, this libertarian theology, you've got to have a bunch of people get injured or killed before you do anything. And then the lawsuits is the second part of it. The libertarians say, oh, all problems can be solved by the court system by simply suing people. But the problem is that when you go to the court system and you say, okay, we're going to sue over this, you know, again, you're dealing with a harm that has already happened. And the whole point of regulation is to say, we know this is a potential harm. We're going to prevent it from happening.